Listen to me very carefully. The moment you sit down at your trading desk afraid of losing money, you have already lost. Not because the market beat you, but because your mind beat you first. I know this because I lived it. I made millions on Wall Street when most men were still learning how to read a ticker tape. I lost those millions. I rebuilt them. I lost them again. And through every rise and every collapse, through every fortune made and every account wiped clean, I discovered the single most important truth in all of speculation. It is not about the charts. It is not about the news. It is not about the indicators or the patterns or the secret methods men sell in books. It is about this. The trader who is afraid of losing money will always lose money. Always, without exception. Because fear does not protect your capital. Fear destroys your judgment. And without judgment, no strategy on earth can save you. Today I am going to tell you what I learned. Not what I read, not what I was taught. What I learned through pain and failure, and the kind of losses that keep a man awake at night staring at the ceiling, wondering where everything went wrong. Because that knowledge, that hard, expensive, painful knowledge, is the only knowledge worth having. Let me ask you something. Why do you think you entered the markets? Most men will say they came for the money. And that is true on the surface. But go deeper. What does the money represent? Security, freedom, control, the ability to provide, the ability to live without asking permission from anyone. Now here is where it gets dangerous. When you attach your sense of security to every single trade, when your emotional stability rises and falls with every candle on the chart, you are no longer trading. You are surviving. And survival mode is the enemy of good trading. A man in survival mode cannot think clearly. He cannot be patient. He cannot hold a winning trade. He cannot cut a losing trade. Because every decision is filtered through one terrifying question. What if I lose? That question will ruin you faster than any bad trade ever could. I want to tell you about a period in my life that I rarely discussed publicly. I had made a fortune, more money than most men see in 10 lifetimes, and then I lost it. Not in one day, not in one bad trade, but slowly, decision by decision. Each decision infected by something I had never felt before at that level. Fear. The fear of losing what I had built. The fear of going back to nothing. The fear of being wrong. And because I was afraid, I started doing things that Jesse Livermore in his right mind would never do. I held losing positions because I could not accept being wrong. I moved my stops because the loss felt too painful to take. I averaged down into trades that were clearly finished. I told myself stories. I said the market would come back. I said I just needed more time. The market gave me no such thing. The market never does. And the fortune I had spent years building disappeared. Not because the market was smarter than me, but because fear had made me stupid. That is the lesson. Fear does not protect you from losses. Fear guarantees them. Now I want you to understand something that most traders spend their entire careers never learning. A loss is not a failure. A loss is a cost. Every business in the world has costs. A doctor pays for his office. A builder pays for his materials. A shop owner pays for his stock. These are not failures. These are the costs of being in business. A trading loss is no different. It is simply the cost of participating in the market. The problem is that nobody tells beginners this. They come into trading believing that losses mean something is wrong, that losses mean their strategy is broken, that losses mean they are not good enough. None of that is true. He asks one simple question. Did I follow my rules? If the answer is yes, the loss is acceptable. Move on. If the answer is no, the loss is a lesson. Learn it and move on. Either way, you move on. That is the only response a professional trader has to a losing trade. Let me give you a picture that stayed with me for many years. Think about a farmer. He plants his seeds in spring. Some seeds grow, some seeds do not. Does the farmer dig up every seed every day to check if it is growing? Does he panic when it rains too much? Does he abandon his field when the sun disappears for a week? No. He trusts the process. He knows that not every seed will produce a harvest. He knows that some seasons will be difficult. But he also knows that if he tends to his field with patience and discipline, the harvest will come. Trading is exactly the same. Your strategy is your field. Your trades are your seeds. Some will grow, some will not. Your job is not to force every seed to grow. Your job is to tend to the field with discipline and let probability do its work over time. The farmer who panics at the first sign of bad weather will never bring in a harvest. The trader who panics at the first losing trade will never build a fortune. I want to talk about something that destroyed more accounts than bad strategies ever did. The need to be right. I had it. Every trader has it at some point. That deep burning need to be right about a trade. To call the direction. To predict the move. To feel the satisfaction of watching the market go exactly where you said it would go. That need is poison. Because the market does not care about your opinion. It does not reward you for being smart. It does not recognize your analysis. The market simply moves. And when you need to be right, you start defending positions instead of managing them. You hold losers because admitting the loss means admitting you were wrong. And being wrong feels unbearable. So you wait. And the loss grows. And you wait longer. And the loss grows larger. Until finally the pain of holding is greater than the pain of selling, and you close the trade at a loss so large it takes months to recover, all because you needed to be right. I learned this lesson at great expense. The best traders I ever knew were not the ones who were always right. They were the ones who were wrong quickly and cheaply, and right slowly and expensively. Small losses, large wins. That is the formula. But you can only follow that formula when you stop needing to be right. Now let me tell you about the psychology of the winning trade. Because fear of losses is only half the problem. The other half is what fear does to your winning trades. A trader who is afraid of losses cannot hold a winner. The moment a trade moves in his favor, fear whispers to him, "Take it. Take the profit now. What if it reverses? What if you give it all back?" And he listens. He closes the trade early. He takes a small profit when the trade was built for a large one. Then he watches the market continue moving in the direction he predicted, without him. And the frustration of watching that missed profit is worse than any loss he could have taken. This is how fear works against you on both sides. It makes you hold losers too long, and it makes you close winners too soon. The result is a portfolio full of small wins and large losses, which is the exact opposite of what successful trading requires. Successful trading requires small losses and large wins. Fear flips this completely. And a trader living in fear will always wonder why his account never grows, even when he is right more often than he is wrong. Let me give you something practical, something you can use starting from your very next trade. Before you enter any position, ask yourself 3 questions. First, how much am I willing to lose on this trade? Not how much do I want to make. How much am I willing to lose? Define it. Write it down. Accept it before the trade begins. Second, if this trade hits my stop loss, will I follow my rules and close it? Or will I find a reason to hold on? Be honest with yourself. Because if the answer is that you will hold on, do not take the trade. You are not ready. Third, if this trade works and reaches my target, will I take the profit or will I move the target higher, chasing more? These 3 questions force you to plan your trade like a professional. And when you plan like a professional, fear has less room to enter. Because fear thrives in uncertainty. Planning creates certainty. And certainty creates calm. I want to tell you something about risk management that most people misunderstand. Risk management is not about avoiding losses. Risk management is about keeping losses small enough that they cannot hurt you. There is a huge difference. A trader who risks 10% of his account on one trade is not managing risk. He is gambling with survival. A trader who risks 1% of his account on one trade is managing risk correctly. Because even if he loses 10 trades in a row, he still has 90% of his capital. He can still think clearly. He can still follow his rules. He can still wait for the next opportunity. But the trader who risked 10% per trade, after 10 losing trades, he has nothing left. No capital, no confidence, no second chance. This is why position sizing is the most important skill in trading. More important than entry, more important than exit, more important than indicators or patterns or any technical method. Because if your position size is correct, no single loss can destroy you. And if no single loss can destroy you, fear has nothing to work with. I said something many years ago that I still believe to this day. The game of speculation is the most uniformly fascinating game in the world. But it is not a game for the stupid, the mentally lazy, the person of inferior emotional balance, or the get-rich-quick adventurer. Read those words again. Not for the stupid, not for the mentally lazy, not for the person of inferior emotional balance. Markets do not care about your intelligence. I have seen brilliant men destroyed by their own emotions. Markets reward emotional balance above everything else. A calm mind makes better decisions than a brilliant, fearful mind. Every time, without exception. This is why successful trading is first a psychological discipline and only second a technical skill. You can learn the technical skills in months. The psychological discipline takes years. But once you have it, once you have that emotional stability that allows you to take losses without panic and hold winners without greed, the market becomes a very different place. It stops being a source of fear. It becomes a source of opportunity. Let me talk about patience. Because patience and fear cannot exist in the same mind at the same time. Fear is always in a hurry. Fear says, enter now, before the move starts without you. Fear says, close it now, before it reverses. Fear says, do something, anything, because doing nothing feels dangerous. But patience understands something fear never will. The best trades are the ones you wait for. I spent many of my most profitable years simply watching the market, watching the tape, waiting for the moment when everything lined up perfectly, and then acting decisively. Not before, not after, at exactly the right moment. There is a saying I lived by for most of my career. It never was my thinking that made me the big money. It was my sitting. Think about that. Not my thinking, my sitting, my patience, my willingness to do nothing until the right moment arrived. Most traders cannot sit still. They need to be in the market. They feel that if they are not trading, they are missing something. But more often than not, the trader who is always in the market is the trader who is always losing. Because he is trading out of restlessness and fear, not out of opportunity. I want to address something that many traders never talk about openly: the shame of losing. When a trader loses money, he often feels ashamed. He feels like he has failed. He compares himself to other traders who appear to be winning. He reads about the successful traders and wonders what is wrong with him. And that shame makes everything worse. Because shame leads to hiding. Hiding from the loss. Hiding from the mistake. Refusing to examine what went wrong. Refusing to learn. The professional trader has no shame around losses. He is honest with himself. He reviews the trade. He asks what he could have done differently. He extracts the lesson. And then he releases the loss completely. He does not carry it into the next trade. He does not let it infect his next decision. He starts fresh. This is not easy. It takes practice. But it is essential. Because a trader who carries shame from one trade into the next is not trading with a clear mind. He is trading with a wounded one. And wounded minds make wounded decisions. Let me bring this all together for you. Because everything I have told you today connects to one central idea. The market is a transfer mechanism. It transfers money from emotional traders to disciplined ones, from fearful traders to calm ones, from impatient traders to patient ones, from traders who need to be right to traders who simply follow their rules. This transfer happens every single day, in every market, in every time frame, on every chart, and you will always be on one side of that transfer. You will either be the one giving money away or the one receiving it. Fear puts you on the giving side. Discipline puts you on the receiving side. It is that simple. Not easy, but simple. I want to leave you with a final thought. Something I wish someone had told me when I first walked onto the trading floor as a young man full of ambition and completely empty of wisdom. The market will humble every trader eventually. It humbled me. More than once. It will humble you too. That humbling is not punishment. It is education. The market is the greatest teacher in the world, but only for students who are willing to learn. Most traders are not willing. They want to win without learning. They want profit without process. They want success without discipline. The market takes their money and gives them nothing in return. But the trader who approaches the market with humility, who accepts losses as tuition, who treats every mistake as a lesson, who never stops learning, that trader eventually reaches a point where fear no longer controls him, where losses no longer shake him, where the market becomes not a battlefield, but a place of opportunity. So the next time you sit down to trade and feel that familiar fear rising in your chest, stop. Take a breath and ask yourself one question. Am I trading to make money, or am I trading to avoid losing it? Because those are two completely different states of mind, and only one of them leads to success. Trade with discipline. Trade with patience. Risk only what you can afford to lose. Cut your losses quickly. Let your winners run. And never, under any circumstances, let fear make your decisions for you. Because in the end, the market does not destroy traders. Traders destroy themselves. And the weapon they use most often is fear. I am Jesse Livermore. And the greatest truth I ever learned in a lifetime of trading is this. A trader who conquers fear conquers the market. Everything else is just detail.